Hey, it's Amy Walsh from the Bureau of Tactical Imagination, and today I want to talk to you about three things that I really want you to keep in mind when you're thinking about 2020 and your social media world, life, business strategy, whatever you want to call it. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are a small business owner and social media is at least some significant part of your strategy for marketing, for getting known and loved and trusted on social media. So here are three things that I want you to think about. One is that most of the stuff that we get out there, most of the learning that we absorb from the business spaces around us, around social media, is focused solely on strategy. And if it's focused on the creative side, it's really just in the service of strategy only. So for example, images stop people from scrolling more than words will. So you want to get an image. What kind of images are, stopping people more on Facebook ads? Oh, this month it's images of sunsets, that kind of like completely strategy oriented, somewhat creative, but not very creative stuff. And the first thing I want you to keep in mind is there is no conflict whatsoever, despite how it may seem out there, between your business's most important bottom line numbers-based strategy and your creative development. So in other words, what moves you forward in terms of your creative development, in terms of your imagination, in terms of expanding your knowledge and putting you in a state of inquiry that's really exciting for you, that is in no conflict whatsoever with your business strategy. They can feel like separate things, and in some manifestations they are separate things and don't work well together, but there's always a place where there's an overlap that is magic and superpower for your business and for you and your experience of well-being in your business, and for the people who follow you and the people who want to be around you. So not only are these things not in conflict, they enhance each other beautifully when you can kind of hit that beautiful intersection between your strategy and your creative developer as the maker of your business and as the maker of your work. So you can think of your content marketing, the work that you do and that you spread in the online channels and platforms, as a place to develop your body of work. It's your exhibition space, it's your publishing space, it's your performance space, it's your writing, it's your research space. It's a place where your body of work, your life work at this moment in time is developing and developing in a beautiful and substantial way. So it's not just the places where you deliver your services or you deliver your products to people where the substance of your work resides. It's also very much in the marketing. It can be very much in the marketing. So that's part one, no conflict. Part two is, okay, so how do you make your way forward with that knowledge? When you're thinking about what to make and do that both develops you creatively, or in terms of your knowledge, your voice, your imagination, the body of work that you're developing, think in terms of processes that you can enact, not final outcomes. So think about processes that allow discoveries to happen, processes that grow you as the person who is creating this work in the world. So think about, when you're thinking about processes as opposed to products, think about your particular unique combinations of interest, experience, creative strengths that you and or your team, your business carries. I think many at least small business owners that I'm around started a small business in part, there's a lot of reasons of course, but in part, something I noticed that a lot of us share, because there's something unique about the particular combination of skills interests, and offerings that we embody, you know. And when you have a small team, it's even more the case. These kind of different things come together that is like a combination that doesn't really exist in other formats, and kind of the only thing that you can do is build a business out of it, right? A business of your own and be the founder. So think of processes that bring together, not separate and isolate, but bring together strengths and creative inspirations and skills and interests related to your work, however loosely, and they can seem very incompatible in a way. What happens if you combine them in a kind of process? So let me give you a couple of examples. Say you're a therapist and you're a decent writer, and you also really love photography, but you're not really sure how the photographs you take are related to your therapy practice and to your clients. So maybe you start a process where you write one sentence stories, just as many one sentence stories as you can, which is a place where you explore nuances of human experience, you know, that light you up in your work. So maybe every time you have a session with someone, you write 10 one sentence stories, and, you know, of course, observing confidentiality with your client. So now you're developing this sort of process, this body of work of one sentence stories that, you know, almost like a haiku or something. It gives you this like nice limited container within which you can explore an infinite variety of things and really start to develop. Maybe the stories will start to build on each other. Something will develop, who knows what. That's a great example. And then maybe you start to pair those stories with photographs that you're collecting on your morning walks. You know, you're taking photos along the way, and start to see what happens when these stories and these photos come together. You're not trying to illustrate the stories in a literal way, but you're seeing how image and text affect each other. And over time, that's going to evolve, and it's going to change course, and you're going to follow your nose, you know, make discoveries. Some things are going to pop out as powerful, and you can kind of evolve in that direction. And maybe that's a process that would stumble you into a really powerful body of work that you develop on social media that looks unlike anybody else's, right? Another example is, say you're a body worker, and like many body workers, you started in some other profession. Let's say you were a tap dancer, for example. You've got the traditions and the lineages and the methods that you learned in your realm of body work, and then you have this other part of you, or maybe it's cooking. I don't know. It could be really disparate, right? So maybe there's some part of your practice in an ongoing way where you take 1-minute videos where you experiment with what happens when you combine this other form of movement or this other form of making into the form of body work that you do. And maybe you just do this a couple times a day for the whole year of 2020. And maybe you start to publish these things. You know, maybe you start to put them on YouTube or on Instagram stories or whatever. Maybe you start inviting other people into this practice. And over the course of the year, you might start to see a new methodology or a new cultural form that just lives on social media. It doesn't even make its way into your business, emerge. And that gives people who are watching this picture of how your mind and your way of working and your zone of genius is different from everybody else's. So wrapping up item number 2 here, what are the combinations inside of you or inside your team from which the genius springs? So if you're working with a small team, what are processes that you can do together on a regular basis that throw all of these beautiful strengths that each person has into a pot and lets them create some kind of new stew in a very process-oriented way? I think it's really important for teams to have non-productive creative time together. Very, very important. Um, Try it out. Let me know what you find out. Okay. So number 3, and this is more of a reflection on the spaces that we're in, the kind of the culture of digital business space. In its trajectory, like we've come through several years now of digital small business culture, which is characterized by this huge preponderance of business advice, formulas, funnel strategies, experts, all different kinds of marketing theories, shiny objects, trendy pathways, et cetera, et cetera. It's like a gold rushy kind of scramble for attention and for hacking algorithms, for rapid audience growth, et cetera. And I'm definitely noticing, and I know a lot of people I'm talking to are noticing a collective kind of exhaustion. And also we are all getting much more sophisticated in spotting smarmy marketing techniques, stuff that doesn't feel ethical, stuff that's just clamoring for attention but has no substance, etc. So I see so many of us actively resisting this kind of frenzied and shallow way of being and doing commerce. And we're all looking for ways to be more grounded in substance and authenticity and meaning. And we want to make a good contribution. Like, we want to make a good contribution to the world. And that's why most of us started our small businesses, actually. The people that at least I'm surrounded by and who are attracted to my work, that has been true for us. So a couple people have asked me recently, like, what do you see as trends coming for 2020? And I'm going to say that those of us who can combine being smart about the strategic part of running a business and all that entails, because all of that is important, basic business foundations, with ditching formulaic and trendy approaches, ditching a kind of addictive pull to gathering more advice from all kinds of random sources, and ditching all of these kinds of approaches to marketing for a kind of marketing that's both generous and really deeply rooted in the founders or the collaborative teams' vibrant, thoughtful, unique, creative process. These are the people who I think are going to become more and more visible and important people to watch in these spaces. And there are many already. I mean, the only reason why I see that this will be some kind of thing in 2020 is that it's already happening all over the place in 2019. So it can be a slower runway towards business growth, which I also think is appropriate for our times. Like, we have to figure out how to create economies of generosity and reciprocity and regeneration for the earth, and not endless growth, which is totally killing the planet. And, it values making a real and meaningful and substantial contribution. Like, we get to figure out how to make businesses that serve our people, that bring in revenue, that serve us, and that are a place of abundant creativity and craft, really, for us, and all of the ways that craft manifests. Depth as much as breadth. So I think what this means is that more and more we as small business owners and our teams are going to be cultivating the capacities of artists and creative directors, people who we tend to think of as having like some super special skill set that only certain types of talent can do, but they're actually very human skills of communicating and storytelling and listening and creating, totally available to all of us. I think we're going to start to see that those are the capacities that need to be cultivated. That's a big gap in our spaces. People are cultivating a lot of strategic capacities, and not enough depth in creative capacities, and it can feel very challenging for us to find time and space to devote to those things, to developing our creative capacities. Ideation, creative processes, visual storytelling, all of these things. More and more, I think we're going to be relying less on specialists and more on building these capacities in ourselves and our businesses. So that was number 3. If you have been hanging on with me this whole time, thank you. This is one of my longer videos since I've started this little YouTube channel. And I wanted to let you know that on December 12th, 2019, coming right up, I am teaching a free workshop about all of this. It's called asterisms. Asterisms is the word in English for small clusters of stars within constellations that we give names to, like the Big Dipper and the Teapot. So the asterisms workshop will be 90 minutes. It's free. It's on Crowdcast. It'll be with me in a lively chat room full of people having fun in the chat, which always happens on my workshops. And we're going to take a step back from all the strategy conversations. Not that they aren't important, because you have to have them, but that's not what we're going to do in this workshop. In this workshop, we're going to put attention on you as the creative director behind your social media presence. And I'm going to give you some concrete and some much more free-flowing kind of tools, and most importantly, some questions, just some important guiding questions to give you a chance to really reflect on how you're using social media, how you want to be using social media, how that might connect to your strategy from the creative development side. So please come join us. I think you're going to come out of it with some really fun new ideas, ideas that just might make a huge difference for you in the coming year in terms of your visibility, the strength of your marketing efforts, even your revenue. Come on over. Let's play with this. So find all the details for the workshop in the description below. And if you're watching this video after the workshop has taken place, go to the description anyway. You can sign up and get the recording. All right. Thanks for listening. See y'all later.